Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast with host Kat Ward. Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast, Paranormal Talk with Heart and Soul. Tonight's segment is pre-recorded on United Public Radio Network 107.7 New Orleans, 105.3 the Gulf Coast, YouTube, Spotify, and any place you find your favorite podcast. And I'm your host, Kat Ward. If you haven't grabbed your tickets yet for the second annual Gatineau Ottawa Sasquatch Conference here in Canada on August 15th and 16th, now's the time. Limited tickets are selling fast. This event has grown tremendously in just 1 year, and this year's lineup is bigger and better than ever. Featured speakers include Kevin Tracy, Peter Smith, Ron Crypto Guru Murphy, Tina and Lindsay Cote, Sunbow, True Brother, Ken Gerhardt, and many more, including yours truly. So if you're passionate about Sasquatch, the unexplained, and connecting with an incredible community, you won't want to miss this. Check out the link in the show notes to secure your spot. I hope to see you there in August. So my dear Haunted Hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. For segment 81, I'm joined by two fascinating guests, Jamie Mose and Leila. We've just talked about this too, Olivarri. Jamie is a seasoned paranormal investigator, best-selling author, and healthcare professional who has spent over 20 years exploring the unexplained. She co-wrote Respectful Ghost Hunting, Insights into the Paranormal, and is known for her collection of haunted dolls, with investigations spanning famous locations across the U.S. and Europe. Leila Olivarri is an experienced investigator and former regional director with the Warren Legacy Foundation, where she led private residential cases. She worked with multiple teams, supported charity investigations, and was a speaker at the Spooky Spectacular Paracon in 2023. She's currently a member of ParaHunters Intuitive Endeavors, and together they bring powerful insight and experience into the paranormal. So tonight we dive into their stories and the mysteries that continue to shape their journey into the unknown. So I welcome my very special guests once again, because apparently I had some technical issues. Leila and Jamie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Now it's recording.
All right. We're good to go.
Yes, we are. I apologize for that.
Oh, no problem.
So again, before we get into our great conversation, if you could tell us your humble beginnings. How did you get into the paranormal?
Okay. When I was a young child, I used to have things happen to me. When I was very young, I would see spirits. I didn't realize what they were, and it would scare me. And my parents just told me it was nothing, so I would forget about it. And then as I got older, we started having stuff happen at my house, at the house I grew up in. One of the examples is I was getting ready. I was at the house by myself. I was getting ready, and I was waiting for my friend, and I thought I heard her come in and say something rude, like, "Hurry up, you're taking too long." So I came around the corner to tell her something rude, and she wasn't there. And the doors were locked, and there was no one at the house. And she didn't even come over till like 30 minutes later, but it was her exact voice and the exact way she would have said it too. Just little things like that.
How old were you at the time?
I was in middle school, so I was probably like 12, 13.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
And I've always been fascinated with it, but I grew up Catholic, and my parents were like, nope. And I let it go until probably when my kids started getting older, and I got back into it, and I've been in it ever since.
Wow. Jamie.
Yeah, that was me too. I had a experience. I was about 15 and I was home alone. My parents were at work and my brother was supposed to be home with me, but he wasn't there. But I had somebody come up to my window, or who I thought was someone, come up to my window and knock on my bedroom window. And so I went to go check it. And then the only way I can explain it is this high-pitched crying sound started. And I have grown up as hunting in the woods, fishing, doing all these things, and always around all kinds of animals and stuff. I'd never heard this sound before, and it was not human. And so I called one of my friends. I was like, I didn't know what to do. And so she said, well, she would come get somebody to come check on me. Well, as I was standing there, it knocked again, and then it said my name. And I was like, oh my gosh, freaking me out. And so whenever my friend finally came to check on me, when they got there, they went around the house with a gun and everything, and there was no footprints. And it was snowing at this time. So there was no footprints and no snow disturbed by my window. And so they never could explain who or what that was. But the way it made my hair stand up on my neck and everything, I knew it was not human. And so anyway, so that's what got me started into it. And then I started doing the going to empty houses and going to cemeteries and things like that. And so I've pretty much been into it ever since then. So
Please tell me your bedroom window's on the main floor and not upstairs.
yes, it was on the main floor.
Okay, because that would have been extra creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though? What's creepy to us when we were kids, if that would have happened to us now, we would love it.
Right? I know. I'd be saying, who is that? Wait, let me get my camera.
Exactly.
just hold that pose. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, it's funny. Mm-hmm. And then how did you get to the point where you are now? Like, how did you two meet?
We met, I actually have a friend, I haven't talked to her in years, but she did tours that we have this place called Goatman's Bridge in Denton, Texas. Yep. It's a very haunted location, and she was looking for tour guides. So my daughter and I actually signed up, and we started doing tour guides with her. I did it with her for about 2 or 3 years. But one day she had told me that there was a frontier village up in Denison, which is probably about 30 minutes north of me. I'm in Texas, so and close to Jamie too. That was it wasn't a haunted location. It was basically the town that was from. They got all these old-fashioned buildings and they brought it to this village. So I had like old churches that were from the place, and they brought it to one place and called it Frontier Village. And they were having paranormal activity, and we were going to join up with actually Miss Teal Gray and her team to investigate that night, and Jamie was one of those people, and that's when I first met her.
Nice.
Yeah, we've been friends ever since and going on adventures ever since then.
Yeah,
it was a cool investigation too.
Yeah, we think a lot alike, and so we're always on the same wavelength. So
yes.
Finishing each other's sentences too, I bet.
Exactly. Yeah. And for some reason, when me and her are together and we go to investigations, both our families come to us. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something strange that happens to us every time. So,
yeah, I'm originally from the east coast of Canada in a province called New Brunswick, and we have an old heritage village called King's Landing, and same thing. They've brought old churches and old houses from 1800s, the 1700s, and made this little village that I remember going to with my parents. And then once I got married and had kids, and we would go sometimes a couple times a year because it was so fascinating. I mean, horse and buggies and the old taverns where it's just candlelit, like there's no power, and they cooked like they did back then. And they had a blacksmith on site that would make nails. It's so fascinating to see heritage villages like that.
That's one of the things I do love about ghost hunting is the history and the things you get to see that and experience, like the battlefields, all that. I mean, Jamie's done 10 times more in Europe, and I'm jealous of her.
Me
but
too.
That's a fascinating part of it.
Yeah, that's what I love about it too, is the history. And then what is so awesome about it too is, you hear all these historical figures and then you read about them in the books and things like that. But then when you get their boots on the ground, you meet these spirits that are just everyday people, like me and you. And so I've learned people's names, how they died, when they were born, and all these things. And so it's just so fascinating to me, to get to meet these spirits and then to learn about them, and they want to be remembered. So, they want people to know their names and remember them. So.
And it's neat when you go back, they remember you.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I love it when they remember my name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when I was at Goatman's Bridge, because I was there so often. It was like, it felt familiar. It was crazy.
Wow.
But I love it. Yeah.
I love old architecture. I mean, I prefer, I don't investigate anymore. I'm pretty much retired, but I love investigating older buildings. Like there's a place here in Ontario, it's in Kingston, called the Kingston Penitentiary. It was built in the 1800s, and they have tours there, and I haven't had a chance to go check it out yet, but my husband and I are going to be going in October, so I hope that we might get a chance to see the penitentiary too, because just the old buildings, I mean, in Canada, we can't appreciate old buildings like over in Europe. When you talk about this building was built in the 14th century, you're just like, what?
No, you can't conceive of it.
No, just blows my mind.
When we were over there, we had to go investigate Leap Castle. That was amazing. We got to talk to a couple of spirits there. And gosh, that castle's been there for over 1,000 years. And that's what's so funny too about even being here in the United States is that, a lot of times, oh, this building's so old, it's over 100 years old. No, you get over there and it's over 1,000 years old or 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
So it's just so interesting. And then you think about all the history and, a lot of the castles that we did see, they had cannonballs, that had hit them, and you could see where they had bullet marks in the walls and stuff where they had been invaded over the years. So you can just imagine, all the things that had happened in those buildings. So it's just
and
amazing.
all the energy that seeped into the buildings
I was
for that many
just
years.
I was just thinking almost those exact words.
Yeah. That's it's a feeling you get when you don't know it unless you've been there, but that you feel like a part of it, and you're experiencing the history is what it should be like.
Yeah, I used to like going into a location kind of blind. I didn't want to know too much about what we're investigating. I would like to find out about it later on, because that way my senses, what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, I want to see if it's true. And it's not that, oh, you told me some information and now it's like, oh yes, George lived here before. Well, they told me George lived here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like having little information.
Yeah. But the best to me is when you are at a location and you meet someone who either worked there or lived there or whatever, back in the day, and you get to talk to them directly and hear their stories. I love that. I mean, Jamie and I are friends, because some people will say, oh, that's cool, you worked here, and then they walk off. Me and Jamie are like, no, we have questions. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Okay, what stories do you have? What happened?
And of course, most of them want to tell you their stories,
do.
Oh my goodness. There's so much history and stuff to the place and all the stuff that they've seen, especially prisons. That's one of probably our specialties. We love doing prisons. But gosh, all the death and all the suffering that's happened there. So it's just so interesting to hear their stories. And then of course, I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I do want to know the stories just because I have no abilities whatsoever. So I just basically rely on my equipment and things like that. But I do like to know the stories because that lets me know what hotspots to go to, what to look for. But I'm very much a skeptic though too, because I want to really validate, what they're saying. And so if it happens, great. If not, then that's just the way it goes. And that's why they call it ghost hunting, because you never know what you're going to get. Or if you'll get anything at all. So, but when the people that have worked there and have the experiences, when they talk to you, they get so excited, and you can see how, it takes them back in time. And of course there was good times there in those places too, not just bad. So, they just love to tell their stories. So we want to hear them for sure.
Yeah. Yep. When we went to Missouri State Penitentiary, the guy that walked us around was a former maintenance man.
Oh,
but he had like his own crew, and it was one of the deadliest prisons, and he had to walk around with no weapons, with inmates that were basically armed, because they would have like the pickaxe and that kind of stuff. And the stories that he told were amazing. Just listening to, like, one of the things he told us was that the inmates told him the only time you should really worry is if it got quiet, because that meant something was about to go down. He said it only happened like once or twice, right, Jamie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and luckily whatever was undergoing, it got simmered down. But he's like, yeah, it's scary. He's like, but listening to a person who was there firsthand is really cool.
That's got to be creepy. Course, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and of course, they've had a lot of paranormal experiences there too. Yeah. So, they love to tell you about that too, because, of course they know that's what you're there for. So they get so excited on telling you, I heard this, or I saw that, or, and then what's, funny too, is a lot of the times they know the spirits because, they knew those people when they were alive, and then they're seen again after they've passed away, or, or put to death or whatever. And so, and that's really good too. So that way, if you know who they are, if you recognize their faces, that's really amazing, because for sure that they were there in that facility and that they passed away there.
Yeah,
so
validation.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through from the beginning of an investigation to the end? What are the steps that you do how do you investigate?
It depends, like, who we have with us and what equipment we have. We've gotten so technical in some investigations, if we have like security cameras, it's not like where you see, you just go and you just start doing stuff, so we have like command centers where we set up the security cameras, and then we have a main room where we have the cameras. We don't always do that. If people have the equipment, that's fun to do because you don't have to be in a room. You can kind of watch the cameras and see if something's going on. But you could just basically go do a walkthrough is what we do first, and do a walkthrough and see if I know Jamie said she doesn't have any abilities. I have some, and if you get any feelings in any room or anything, you're like, okay, let's set up here. Or like Jamie said, if we've heard stories about that, we go, okay, let's go to this room and see if there's anything there. And we just basically use different kinds of equipment. We try to use this different types of equipment in the same area to validate it more, because if like you're getting a voice here and then the spirit box or any lights are going off over here, it's going to validate what you're hearing. And I mean, we just set up for the night and just go room to room. Sometimes you have nothing happening. You sit there for 30 minutes, an hour, nothing's happening. And we usually have recordings. I have a body cam that I used to wear, but now I just kind of places. And we just investigate all night. Some take snack breaks. We always bring good food everywhere we go. Take a little break. But that's kind of when you get the most activity too. You're just kind of relaxing, and that's when it's good to have those cameras if you're lucky. But because that's, I think, when the spirits are more comfortable, because they like, oh, they're not paying attention to us, so we're going to talk.
Yeah, right.
See, and that's like a lot of the questioning that I like to do, or we both do. Is, I don't like to ask, well, when did you die? How did you die? All those things. We'll kind of just start talking and having a conversation. And then I might say, hey, I like chocolate cake. What kind of cake do you like? Or, I try to think of something old, like, I don't know, Mr. Pibb or something, that's not really around anymore. And, I'll ask, hey, what kind? Because one time we were in this one jail and we were talking about music. Now, music it gets a lot of activity. Because you know how music's very powerful for everybody, and it brings back memories and all kinds of things. So anyway, we're in this one jail, and we were asking about what kind of music do you like, and we heard clear as day on the spirit box, Led Zeppelin.
Right on.
And then they, we try to bring trigger objects too. So like especially prisons, we'll try to bring beer and liquor and cigarettes and things like that, because of course that'll also get some people moving around. And so we were.
We got a cool video of someone smoking a cigarette.
Yes.
Remember
Yeah. We were at Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in Petros, Tennessee. And if I hadn't known the story, we wouldn't have known to go into that jail to go check it out. And so, that cell. And so we were in the cell and we set the cigarette up like they told us to. And I'm thinking, this is so stupid. This is not going to work. I almost fell over when the cigarette lit up. You know how the cherry gets real red when someone takes a drag off of it? That's what it did. It like really got bright red, and then it would go back down like whoever had, quit blowing on it or taking it in, whatever they do.
Yeah.
And so, but I was just floored. We probably sat there and did that for 30 minutes because I just could not believe that was actually happening. But that was some really good. Yeah.
You must have been just giddy. Like,
we were
just
loving
see
it.
That. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cause I kept saying, you're doing so awesome. You're doing great. Yeah. But then at another jail too, I had brought some beer in, and of course it was actually still cold at the time. And so, one of the spirits, we got an EVP that said ice, ice, ice. Yeah. And so that because they wanted to say ice cold, and just things like that. So yeah, it's just so exciting to me. And then of course, like I said, when they remember my name and they call me by name, that's really
Jamie
good.
Gets her name said a lot. And my daughter, for some reason, when she goes too, she gets her name said when we're in other rooms. But Jamie, they remember her a lot. Yeah.
But I kind of make that happen though, because I'll be like, my name's Jamie. Don't forget, my name's Jamie.
Remember, I'll be back on this time. This is when I was here before.
Yeah.
Do you ever introduce yourselves?
Oh, every time.
Yeah. Every time. Yeah.
Every time.
Do you explain what the equipment is?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Explain what the equipment is. Yeah, because if they're from the 1800s, they might not know what the equipment is. So yeah.
Or if it's like, excuse me, child spirits, we tell them it's not going to hurt you, it's safe, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah. We try to be very careful, and we'll touch it too, and show them that this is not going to hurt you. It just you feel your energy and things like that. So yeah, we try to make sure that they're comfortable. But yeah, that's one of the first things we always do. And in the book that me and my friend Susan wrote, We talk about that. It's like you're going into someone's home. So you want to go in, introduce yourself, be respectful. Don't go in there and just start, yelling, "Hey, I'm here and I expect you to show yourself," and that kind of thing. No, I said, if you go into someone's house and say that to them, well, they're going to go hide or, try to figure out some way to get you out.
Yeah,
and so we try to so we're very respectful when we go in. We give them our names, tell them where we're from. And sometimes I try to play on their sympathy a little bit. I'm like, I drove like 17 hours to get here just to meet you. So please say something to me.
We're all the way from Texas and we're up, north somewhere.
Yeah.
So long.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, we always introduce ourselves, and then, then we'll say, can you tell us your name? And not very often, but every once in a while, we'll actually get a name. So
we don't antagonate though. That's not something
we
do.
No,
we don't do that at all.
I agree with that. It's just
because they're humans. They're just like us,
Yeah, and it's not wise to antagonize something that you can't see.
and you don't know, because it's like we say, you were nice, pleasant people, and when we pass away, we're going to be the same. But if you're a grumpy old man or a killer or a rapist, they're going to be that kind of spirit. They're going to be a dark spirit that's going to push at you. So no, I wouldn't do that in person.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Jamie said, you're in their house. I think that's just very rude.
Yeah.
We did an investigation once at an old military base, and later on it was converted to an asylum. Cool. But it was used as a paintball. They had 3 beautiful buildings. People would just go in there paintballing, and it was pretty much gutted. Like it was they were all old buildings, and I forgot to explain the equipment. And I like to walk around with a mag, not a the FLIR. Oh my God. The thermal imaging thing. Yeah. So I have that attached to my belt loop, and I forgot to mention about the equipment. And you heard on the, was it the Ovulus? I think it was, or the Spirit Box. I can't remember but anyways, it said, her gun. And we're all like looking at each other going, "Oh, I am so sorry," because it's kind of shaped like a gun.
Oh,
so I said,
yeah.
So we explained it, and then I said, "I'm sorry, did I frighten you?" And it says, "Yes, very much." It's just like, okay, well, you don't have to worry. It's just something to help us potentially see you, And I explained what it was. So I find it very important to, like you said, you introduce yourselves and explain what your equipment is. I mean, you can't tell them to go to your EMF detector and light it up. No, just the little black box with the lights on it, just try and describe it that way. Yeah.
Well, tell them if you run around it, the lights will go off, if it's kid spirits.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You want to have some fun? Set off the lights? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes once they figure it out, you can tell, and they just keep going at it, and that's when it's really fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you two have a preference if you like to investigate private residences or historical locations?
Historical locations.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do private residences just every rare once in a while, but normally it's going to be, a bigger location, whether it be a prison or, whatever. But yeah, I'm just not much on doing home investigations just because, there's so much more to it. And a lot of times you have to really be careful of the people of the home that you go into, because I have a couple of times went to a home and trying to help people, and they needed more help than what I could give them. They needed mental help, and it's kind of scared me pretty much, because I was like, are they going to hurt me, or are they going to, do something to me while I'm here? And so anyway, I'm not much on doing private residences anymore. Now, if there's a big group
you
of
have to
us,
have some good safety plans in place.
Yes.
You shouldn't ever go alone. Always have your team with you.
Yeah.
You never know. Yeah. I mean, when I worked at the Warren Legacy Foundation, it was different because we did it via Zoom because we were worldwide.
Yeah.
Even then, though, still, and it's sadly, probably like 90% of the people we helped, they had a lot of mental health issues, or they were like manifesting what was going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, but you have to be super careful. And if we ever went out to locations, we had rules in place, and, we had to make sure they didn't have guns or, anything that was dangerous, that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of that is mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have questionnaires that you provide the client? Because that's what we would offer, and we have to ask the most uncomfortable questions.
Yes.
Medication? Is there mental health issues with you or anyone in your family? They're very they're awkward questions, but you have to ask them because
Yeah. When I was at the foundation, that was our first interview would be that. And it was
Yeah.
like it was like 5 pages of stuff. But just like you said, is there
Yeah.
drug use? You have to know if there's drug use.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and that's
almost
what
like,
we had done is I was actually the one that had done the the interviews. We did like 3 interviews with this one lady, before we decided to go ahead and go to her home. And of course she seemed really nice. I didn't have any bad feelings about her or anything. But then when we got to the home, I was like, whoa, this is not what I thought we were coming into. So
yeah.
so we didn't really spend a whole lot of time there. And I was like, well, we really need to do a little bit more background checks. I mean, not background checks, but like checking the earth and, that kind of thing. Like if there's ever any cemeteries there, or if was it, I was trying to make excuses to get out of there. So I was like, well, we really need to, check the property records and things like that and see, what else pops up. But yeah, I was ready to get out of there.
Yeah.
We had one
But yeah,
on Zoom
and
that the guy kept saying he was channeling every celebrity you can think of. But it started off, he was at a park and he was talking all this crazy stuff, and there's people behind him. They're probably like, what in the world? And then so he went and sat down, and he's at a park, and he's like, they're following me. Can you tell? And it ended up not even like 10-15 minutes into the interview, he was really high on cocaine.
Oh.
So, because he was sweating and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep it together and be like, okay, what's going on? And like Jamie said, just find your way to get out of the situation and keep going.
Yeah.
But I do like to help people.
Yeah. That's another reason why I prefer historical locations or even businesses. You walk into, because you don't know what you're going to walk into at first. You could have a hoarder and you don't know where to step. You could have firearms, or even up here in Canada, because we always ask, are there any rooms you don't want us to go in? It's almost like police doing an investigation. Do you have anything here that could hurt you or us?
But you have to.
You do.
Yeah. Because if it's the very rare worst of the worst, and it is a demon or something like that, it could also be influencing them or their family members. So you just got to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fun. We have a lot of fun, but we also take it seriously, and you have to,
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier, I fully support the buddy system. Never investigate alone, not just because of what could be there spiritually, but you never know if you walk into a hole or something, and you break a leg and you can't move and you're there for days. Like,
I had a friend who were at an older cemetery, and she stepped and her foot kind of went through a little bit into the grave because it was so old. Because those are wooden coffins. So over time, that's just going to collapse.
Yeah.
Jamie loves to go in places by herself.
Oh, really? You're brave.
Well, if there's other people around, if they're
at locations.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I like to go in rooms, or even, I've been in the whole wing of insane asylums and things by myself. As long as I know there's somebody within reach that I can, call.
And we keep in touch. Like we have our phones to make sure that we check up on each other. That kind of stuff.
But for me, I do like to be by myself. Everybody's always asking me, what's your most scariest location? And I'm like, I don't really have one, because I really don't ever get scared per se. I said, now I've been startled, by animals, by humans and things like that. I said, but, as far as like spirits go, I said, I've not met anything that's really scared me. And I've even only like twice now I've met demonics, but I just, kept cool, made sure, we gathered up all of our stuff, got out, and then we cleansed ourselves and all of that, just making sure, that we didn't take anything with us. But it's like they say, demonics are so far and few in between, that they're not as prevalent as they try to show on TV and things like that.
Exactly.
But when you run into them, I always say I don't have any, abilities or anything, but now I can tell when it's a demonic. It sends cold chills up my spine, and then my stomach flips and turns, and my body tells me when it's a demonic. So,
and that's what people ask. We're like, because they call us scared when they were calling from help, and you're like, you would know, and that's always the first thing people jump to. And we're like, you would know if it was.
Well, that Archbishop friend of mine, he said the demonic cases are not nearly as frequent as people think. And I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Well, another thing, people like they'll hear in an investigation, and it'll be like "devil, get out" and that kind, and the people freak out, and we're like, and Jamie and I were like, "We're there, we're fine," because to me, demonic people aren't just going to be like, "Oh, hey, it's me, I'm going to come in here." They're very deceptive. They're going to trick you. They're not going to just come right and say who I am.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to be very deceitful. They're going to be tricky. They're not going to be like, "Hey, I'm Satan." That's not going to happen. It's to me, it's just
How you
someone's just
doing?
mad that you're there. Yeah, they're mad
Yeah.
you're there, so they're going to try. They're like, "Watch this. We're going to scare these guys."
Yeah.
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 And 9 times out of 10, they do. They all go running or leave.
Mhm.
Do you two have any investigations in particular that was your favorite?
I keep going back to that Brushy Mountain. I know
Yeah.
you probably have your ones, but the Brushy Mountain was God, there was only like 5 of us, and we had the whole place to ourselves for the night. So that one, and we had a lot of stuff happen. That one was really cool.
Yeah,
Just the
that was one of the most
landscape. Yeah.
active places. But and also for me, the Waverly Hills
Yes.
was very, very active.
Yeah.
That was a really awesome place. And then for me too, it's surprising. There's a teeny tiny little town here in Oklahoma called Hugo, Oklahoma. And they have a little museum there. It's called the Frisco Depot Museum. It used to be a railroad hub. And so there was a doctor's office, dentist's office, lawyer's office, all kinds of things up in there. And then what's called a Harvey House. And a Harvey House was one of the first chain restaurants in the United States. And they were in most of the train stations. And so they had what's called the Harvey
Harvey's
Girls.
like the Harvey's burger? Or is it something completely
No.
different?
No,
Okay.
this is just like, it's more like home cooking, like a cafe kind of thing.
Yep.
And it was basically just in the train stations. And of course, when the train stations started kind of going away, so did they. But they have what are called the Harvey Girls, and they were the ones that worked in the restaurant, the little waitresses and things. And at this little place, like I said, it's called the Hugo, the Frisco Depot Museum. The Harvey Girls, some of them were there. They told us where they were from. They're from Chicago, New York, and they're very, very motivated by money.
Yeah.
And then we met so many spirits there at that place, and it was so active. And I always tell people that's actually also one of the most active places I've ever been. Was that little bitty
You
place
can put
there?
money down on the little bar where the diner is, and it'll go flying, or it'll scoot.
Yeah.
You always get a
Wow.
reaction when you have money there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you offered money for them to communicate? Like, here, I'll
We
give
do.
you 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And they will too, because like I said, I've done that too. I put money down, and then they'll start lighting up all your equipment, and then you'll start hearing voices. And then I forgot about that. But yeah, one time we had put money on the counter, and it flew up. So
And of course,
I don't
we
know-
kept looking to make sure there was like not a breeze
Yeah.
or not a draft or something going through
Yeah.
that was pushing it off, and there was nothing.
Mm-mm.
Now, you've probably had this asked you hundreds of times, but is there an investigation that really frightened you?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
And I also
no.
listen to myself. Like if I feel like there's an area or something, I listen. I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go over there. But nothing like I wouldn't go back. I just protect myself and I don't go.
Now I will go ahead and confess that I went by myself again into this abandoned building, and it was in Texarkana. I guess I was in the Texas part, but anyways, I didn't get scared of spirits. But when I walked in there was a room that was full of like bedding, and you could see needles on the floor and things like that. And I was like, because I didn't realize there was a bunch of homeless people staying in there. Now that scared me because, I thought, I don't know if they're on drugs or whatever, but yeah, I hightailed it out of there fast.
It's probably
Because
smart.
I didn't want any of them to, try to do anything to me. But yeah, that was scary. But of course it was people. But as far as, any spirits, and they have tried, and that's what, like Leila was saying, they tried, like they'll say, I'm a demon or, things like that. And we'll laugh. We're like, no, you're not. Because, I can tell when you are because, and I'll even get onto them. I was like, you're just being a butt, stop being like that.
I've been scratched before. I'm like, oh look, I got scratched right here. Look.
Yeah.
Like we want that kind of stuff to happen.
Gonna pull my hair too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's so funny because, like you said, a lot of people always ask us, oh, well, like everybody knows, whenever we go ghost hunting and they're like, oh, what did y'all find? And we're like, gosh, we didn't get that much, there was a chair that skewed across the floor, and we heard voices, and we heard, because we're just so desensitized to it also, that unless it's something like in your face, a full-bodied apparition that walks by, we're like, meh.
I know. We're like, we didn't get a lot.
Yeah, we didn't get that much.
Have either of you found that you could be using a piece of equipment and you're not getting any hits at all, but you give it to somebody else in the team and it doesn't stop? Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yep, that has happened before too.
that's
It's
amazing.
frustrating. You're like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But it's
know.
just sometimes the spirits, they just, they connect with certain people and not others.
Exactly.
So, because that's like, I always tell everybody I have a boyfriend in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. He was a Civil War soldier, and he specifically said that I reminded him of his, I think it was his girlfriend or I don't think it was his wife. I think he said it was his girlfriend. But anyway, he followed me around the whole entire time that I was in that house.
Wow.
And yeah, every time I'd stop anywhere, my equipment was going off. And so anyways, but yeah, so I have a boyfriend there in Gettysburg.
That's nice. That's so cute.
Mhm.
So do either one of you speak any other languages other than English?
I speak Spanish.
Have you ever spoken Spanish during investigations?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Did you get more hits that way?
Yeah, if it's a place that, there's a lot of Spanish people or that kind of thing,
Yeah.
we do. But on the other flip side of that, Jamie and I have gone into places because, we got the Civil War facilities, all that kind of stuff here, where it's like deep racist kind of stuff going on. And me and Jamie, we've kind of joke around that people get mad that we're there because they're like, you're not supposed to be in this room. You're not supposed to be here. So we get reactions from both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have an instance of that. I don't think I was actually with Leila this time, but I was down in some tiny little town in Texas, and we were in this it wasn't a movie place. It was, they actually did like vaudeville and things like that there.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I was sitting there and none of my equipment was going off. Nothing was happening, but everybody else, like you said, like their dowsing rods were working and things were happening. And so finally, one of my other friends asked, she said, do you not like her because she's Native? And her stuff started going off. So that's the reason that the spirits there that didn't want to talk to me, was because I was Native American. Yeah. So.
I mean, like we said, they're human. So they take that, whatever they had with them, into the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. It's just crazy how we did before I joined the team that I was with, there was a group a public investigation here in the Ottawa Valley at a museum. 98 people showed up. You paid $20. You got to go with a team, and it was really cool. So there were so many people, we had to split everybody up. And one of my friends there was German, so we were just like, "Hey, say something in German."
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was really, and I speak French. I've lost a lot of it, but I would ask, questions in French too. So it's, I find it really interesting that when somebody speaks a different language, a lot of times you can get better communication that way. It's almost like it's like, oh, they speak my language.
Yeah, they're probably excited. Someone can understand me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It might be a little different because, if you compare Old English to now, there might be some differences, obviously, but yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
That's some of the things we think about, like when we're asking questions, we're like, wait a minute, the way we're asking it, they're probably, back then, they don't understand what we're trying to tell them right now.
Yeah.
Or they didn't have vehicles, or, that kind of stuff. So you have to kind of think of what area you're in, whatever location you're at.
I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes if you're not getting any hits at all, maybe it's because they're not understanding the terminology that you're using, the questions that you're asking. So if you can kind of try and word it a different way, so anybody who's new to investigating, maybe this might be something that you could look into. If you're not getting any hits at all, just ask your questions a different way, depending on the era of the people that were there.
Yeah.
Like when Jamie said we're playing the music, sometimes we have to play several different ones. Like we'll play a certain artist and nothing, or we'll try Elvis, and we've had like cool stick figures on the SLS where we played Elvis, and it's like it was doing the snap to the beat, and it was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But if you play a different song, they don't like it; just sits there.
Yeah. I had one that was a little girl, and I was told that she did like the Wizard of Oz movie. And so I had set my phone up on the table, and I was playing one of the videos of the Wizard of Oz, and a stick figure showed. It was on the SLS also, a stick figure showed up and it got down on its knees right in front of my phone, and its little feet and its hips were moving and dancing with the music. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I knew that was her. And yeah, she really liked listening to that music. So we videoed it while she was listening to it and dancing to it. So
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, that was really neat.
And they probably, like I said before, you're going to get more hits, more. They're going to communicate more because you're speaking to how they understand things.
Yes,
It's something they recognize. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. Do you have a favorite piece of equipment, and do you have one that you really don't like using?
I actually just like my standard dowsing rods.
Yeah.
I know it's like the simple or the voice recorder, because
Yep.
we tried to keep that going all night, and when you go back and check it, you get a lot of stuff you didn't realize you got.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's nothing
Yeah,
I really hate.
Yeah, and for me, those two things also. But I also like the cat balls, because especially with kids seem to respond to those really well. And then also, I just totally went blank. Oh, my K2 meter. I do like that too, because a lot of the spirits have been investigated so much that they know how to use some of the equipment. And so a lot of times the K2 meter is pretty simple too, so they can usually use that and communicate with that. So, but and me too, as far as like probably the one I don't like to use the most would be my Ovulus. And the reason for that is I don't know if it's not programmed right or what the deal is, but I hate it that I spent so much money on that, but most of the time it never makes any sense. It doesn't make, the words that it spits out has nothing to do with the situation that I'm in or anything. And so I've just gotten to where now it's a $600 piece of equipment and I rarely take it anywhere.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to spend all that money to get what you need.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like a $600 doorstop or something,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. No, I like the Ovulus.
Yeah, well, I had seen it on TV and I thought, oh my gosh, it works so great. And I've seen other people use it. And so I don't know why, but mine just does not want to work with me. So
have you tried getting somebody else to use it?
I have, but it didn't really seem to work for them either.
Okay.
But I've only let maybe 2 or 3 people use it because of how expensive it is. And I'm like, don't drop it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Don't lose it.
No.
We've always had a lot of luck with that one. I don't like the spirit box because the white noise gives me a headache, and I have a hard time hearing. Like, did they just say like what? I have a hard time with that. But there's one time we had a hit that said the clients, it was their home. They had a fire, so the Ovulus said kitchen fire wires. And we looked at the clients, and they said, yeah, the fire started in the kitchen. It was an electrical issue, and we're just like, oh wow, this is really cool.
Wow.
Sorry it happened. Sorry it happened, but yeah.
When it works good. Like when you get a real clear voice that you can completely understand, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Or like a phrase is even better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are just really cool. But it's hard. It is hard sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a favorite trigger object other than the cat balls?
Not really. Just because it depends on the location of what you're going to take. Yeah. Because like if we're at the prison, we're going to take like the cigarettes and the alcohol. If it's kids, we'll have toys and candy and that kind of stuff. So it just depends. But mostly, I mean, I guess I could say the music would be my favorite because that gets the most reaction.
Yeah, that works at pretty much any location.
Yeah.
Music reaches so many different creatures. I follow this guy on Facebook. He's from France, and he goes to different zoos and sanctuaries, and he just plays music for the animals. And like wolves and alligators come up, and they just like he sings, and they just sit there and they're enamored with him. It's just amazing.
Wow. When I leave, I have dogs, and when I leave, I like have TV on for them so they're relaxed. I'm like, I think they like it. Something that nothing too much because I don't think they like the sound, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they do. They react to it.
Yeah. Do you ever use crystals on you, or do you sage or anything like that before you do an investigation?
Not before.
Yeah.
Not before. Always after.
Yeah, afterwards. But yeah, I have crystals. I have crystals that my friends have given me. I have bracelets. Our friend Susan, she's actually sick, so she hasn't been able to investigate with us a lot.
Sorry to hear that.
She makes amazing jewelry. She does different bracelets, but in the end, it's all objects. It's what you believe in it. It's what it really makes it work.
Exactly. I always say, if you firmly believe in a spoon, that spoon's going to work.
Yeah,
to repel things. Because I feel that using all these objects helps you to visualize and concentrate better. And yes, certain crystals will help. And everybody seems to be attracted to different crystals. For me, it's hematite and selenite and amber. I love those three. And
there's probably something with your body that's attuned to it that works with you.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you say that, never before, you don't do it before the investigation, it kind of makes sense, because I find a lot of times I don't see or hear crap, and maybe it's because I'm too protected.
Yeah. And that's what we are, you want to be a little open, so that way these things can come in. But we don't ever do it beforehand, but definitely after.
Yeah.
Do you feel,
go ahead.
No, we have holy water. If we're, like Jamie says, this particular location, it just felt dark all night.
Yep.
Then we'll spray on ourselves and that kind of thing.
Nice. Do you feel that if there's a location that is investigated all the time, like every weekend, that maybe sometimes the spirits, entities, whatever, are like, not again, and they're just going to be quiet?
Well, I've been to a location and nothing happens. So it's like that the whole night.
Yeah.
And then I've been, you go back a week later and you get all sorts of stuff. So I think another big thing is if you're with a group of people, it depends on their energy.
Oh,
if they are coming in there and they're not, they're not happy, or they don't want to be there, that kind of stuff, they're not going to show themselves to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really believe that too. I believe that, a lot of the spirit energy and things that you get in a location has a lot to do with your energy and what you bring with you. Because, I hear a lot of people say, every time I go somewhere, it's, I get scratched, I get bit, all these things. But I keep thinking, what do you have? Because, I'm not trying to brag or anything, and I'll probably jinx myself. But, like I said, we're very respectful when we go in these places, and we always, introduce ourselves and all that kind of thing. And that's why we wrote the book, Respectful Ghost Hunting. Because, when we go in these places, you have to be very respectful, and you have to watch your energy too, because you want to make sure that you don't come off as being hateful or rude or whatever. Because I, knock on wood, have never been, pushed, or now I have had my hair tugged, but I ask for it, and just things like that. But I've never been hurt. I've never been hurt at any location. So, but, you have these people that every location they go to, something bad happens to them. So I'm thinking, you need to take a look at yourself,
What are you doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
Or you have to be in the right frame of mind too. Like if you're going through like a divorce, or you just had a huge fight at home, that kind of stuff, that's going to affect what you have your energy is like.
Yeah. There's a few times that I told the team I can't investigate tonight because I either had the flu or I'm just not in the right headspace, and it's not safe for everybody. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, even like, and Leila understands this too, that, when my dad passed away, I took off a few months because it just wasn't the right time for me.
Yeah.
I needed to kind of.
I did the same thing after my dad passed. It was like a year before I went on any investigations.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's really hard. Yeah.
It is. And you don't want to leave yourself open to that.
No, because you're not going to be in the right frame, mindset, and there might be something attached to you and you don't even realize, because if you could go anywhere around the world, money's not an issue, where would you love to investigate?
For me, Pavia Island in Italy.
Oh, really? Wow.
I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah.
I know this is like not that far or anything, but the Doll Island,
yes,
place would be cool. That would be cool to me.
Yeah. That's kind of creepy. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, uh, so we have a few more minutes, but I just wanted to touch on haunted objects, haunted dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did you like? How big is your collection?
I think I have about 26 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
And I just get them from all different places. How I started out was I was actually at a paranormal conference and they were having an auction and there was a doll. And for some reason, I was really drawn to this doll. And so me and this girl went into a bidding war over it. And I told her, I said, I will sell my house to get this doll. So you might as well back off. And I mean, it got pretty high up there. And I told her, I said, I'm not stopping. So whatever you want to do. So finally she stopped. And so I got the doll. So she was my first one I brought home. And like I said, I do not know. I mean, I didn't even play with dolls that much whenever I was little because I had brothers and all boy cousins. So I always played G.I. Joes and, that kind of thing. And, but yeah, and so I got her and brought her home, and she's been kind of quiet. She's not said just a whole lot, but then over time, I started, well, I always say I don't have any abilities, but I guess I do have some sort of abilities with haunted dolls because I can kind of sense if a doll is actually haunted or not. And it's just by looking in the eyes. If you look in the eyes and they look like there's somebody there, then there's somebody there. If not, if it's just cold and their eyes are dead, then it's just a doll. But I've gotten a lot of dolls given to me, because people will get these dolls at like antique shops or whatever. And then they start having nightmares and seeing shadow people and hearing voices and things like that. And so, and then they find out that I like haunted dolls. And so they ask me if I want them. And I'm like, sure. And so when I bring them in, we have a talk. I tell them, I'm like, look, you're welcome to stay here. I'll buy you, always get them all their own little case and things like that. And I said, you'll stay clean and you'll, be quiet. There's nobody here but me. Yep. I said, but if you act up and if you try to, do something bad to me, you will go out in storage and you won't be able to stay in the house with everybody else. And so everyone I've brought in, everybody's been good. Everybody, I've had just a couple of things, but nothing bad, like I have a couple of them that like to move. And so I have a certain place I sit on the couch when I'm at home. Mm-hmm. And so, I always put them all straight in their cases, but these two will turn and face me on the couch. I don't know why. I said, well, sit there and stare at me. I don't care. So I just leave them alone now. I don't put them back straight like I used to, but, just little things like that. And then one day, this has been a couple of months ago, I was leaving the house for a weekend ghost hunt, and I always tell them where I'm going and when I'll be back, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I was telling them, I said, I'm going to be back on Sunday, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard, Mama, and I don't have any dolls that talk or any toys in here that talk or anything like that because I don't have any kids. So, but anyways, one of them said, Mama. And I said, no, I'm not your mama. I said, but
maybe you were in a past life.
well, I never thought about that. But yeah, sometimes whenever I first get them, I'll sit down and I'll do sessions with them with the spirit box and with the K2 meters, whatever I have, I'll put it all around them. And then a lot of times I get their names, I get how they died, when they were born, where they used to live, I get a lot of information from them. So it's really interesting. But
what's the oldest doll?
I really don't know because some of these dolls are very, very old. Okay. I know one is over 100 years old, but I'm not sure about, like I said, sometimes they're just given to me and I don't know what year they're from or anything. So, and I've got one doll that's very old and I really think it's over 100 years old. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't know. I don't know when it was made. And I try to look them over to see if they have any dates on them or tags or anything. But the older dolls don't have things like that on them. So
yeah. They're handmade. Amy, Jamie brought up a good point, though, that I want to just touch on real quick. When she said people go to antique shops, you have to be careful. It's not just with the dolls. Yes. You bring home so many things from antique shops, so just beware of that. We've had a lot of cases where it ended up being something they got there.
Yeah. I always tell people, I'm like, hold it, and if you feel anything, do not bring it home. Because it may just start out as a little, I kind of feel something, with this. Yeah. But if you feel anything, leave it. Because when you get home, it may balloon into something way bigger. So just leave it alone.
They're thinking, I've got you now.
Yeah.
I personally don't never buy a used mirror or an old mirror. I just won't.
The old mirrors creep me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you think of the exorcisms and stuff, when they do that, they will cover all reflective objects and that
Yep.
kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know what someone was doing or using that mirror for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I have an antique table. I don't know how old it is, but it's an antique, and I saged it before, like when we brought it in the house. Before I put anything in it or on it, I saged it just to make sure that, all the bad stuff is gone. Do
Yeah.
you have any theories as to why something would? I don't want to use the word possess, but why are they in dolls or any object?
Well, I always tell people that a lot of the reason that dolls get haunted is because everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants attention. And so these spirits, they see kids or even adults, playing with these dolls and hugging them and kissing them and loving
Mhm.
on them. Well, of course they want to do that or, have that kind of attention. And so that's why a lot of times they attach to the dolls. But also, a lot of these dolls are very important to the women or the little girls that own them.
Mhm.
And so the very first doll I got, it was the owner of the doll, that the spirit of that's attached to it is the
Oh,
owner, the original owner. And
Hmm.
so, and there's so many different reasons. And then as far as objects go, again, we were in Gettysburg and there was an armoire in the room. And we found out that the spirit was attached to that armoire because the guy was poor, and so his mother had given that to him. So that was really the only thing that was very nice of value to him. And so he always took care of it in life. And so he always wanted to make sure that it was taken care of also after he passed away. And so he was attached to that armoire. And so there's just so many different reasons, for attachments.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, like emotional attachments. Or
yeah.
it's like a family early, and they're giving it and they know their daughter is going to pass it down, that kind of stuff. Or it meant something special to them.
And some of the old dolls have actual hair from the
human
girl.
hair. Yes.
Yeah, human hair. So that could be another.
And even some dolls were made in the likeness of a little girl that passed away,
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Do you have any haunted objects?
I do not. I mean, I've brought stuff home from locations, but I've never had anything.
Yeah.
I've always had kids too, so I don't like to bring stuff into my house.
Say that again, Carrie?
Said I had kids
that
were younger at the time, and I didn't want to bring anything home that would affect them either, because my daughter's as sensitive like I am.
Yep. Yeah.
I have just a few things. Like I have some coffin nails. I've got a spoon from a haunted hotel. And that seems to have something or someone attached to it. I was trying to think. I had something else too, but now, I've got a really old. It used to be an IV bottle, and it was actually found at Waverly Hills.
Oh.
Yeah, and so so there's something attached to that. So I have a lot of objects from haunted places, but there's only a few that there's something attached to it.
Yeah. I used to love the TV show Haunted Collector. Oh my, I love that show. Yeah.
Yes. I've gotten to hang out with John Zaffis a few times, and he is awesome. Yeah, he is awesome. I love him. He has such a crazy sense of humor.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah, my friend Michelle DeRoche that I mentioned earlier knows him too, and she says, yeah, he was a hoot.
Yeah, he's fun.
Now that's one thing. When I worked with the Warrens, the grandson didn't have any access to the museum because he was separate than NESPRA, which is not the same as the foundation, and they kind of have a break. And that's like one place I would love to go, but now they've kind of commercialized it and made it ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when it's all commercialized.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it just loses something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we are at the end. Thank you so very much for being on the show. I had a great time. You're so easy to talk to, both of you. I mean, thank you.
I had a great time.
Well,
thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Anytime. Anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. If you could please tell the audience where they could find you.
I'm pretty much on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I don't post a lot on TikTok, but mostly on Facebook and Instagram under my name.
Ditto. Me too. I don't do much TikTok, but I've got a whatever you call it, an account. But mainly Facebook and Instagram for me. Oh, and let me throw in one thing real quick too, is that also look for me on it's on Amazon Prime or on YouTube, but it's called Ghost Mob. I was on an episode with the Wraith Chasers, and we investigated the Old South Pittsburgh Hospital.
Nice.
And So yeah, so I was on that episode. I was only in there for like 5 minutes, but it was still cool to be on the show.
Cool,
And
yeah.
that was my first time at that location. That was one of my bucket list locations, and they
Nice.
knew it, so that's why they invited me to go there. And yeah, we had so much fun. Really cool.
Nice. Great when you can check off something off your bucket list.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, as my haunted hearts will know, my listeners, my audience, the links will be in the show notes, so it'll be easier for you to find. So if you have a few minutes afterwards, I'm just going to say farewell to my audience, and then maybe we can chat for a couple of minutes if you have the time.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
A huge thank you to my special guests tonight, Jamie and Leila. Oh my God, I am so sorry. And to you, my wonderful haunted hearts, for tuning in. I also want to thank UPRN 107.7 New Orleans and 105.3 the Gulf Coast for carrying the show. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. It truly does mean the world to me. And if you'd like to be on the show, you have guest or topic ideas, or just want to say, hey, how's it going, Kat? Drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd also like to hear from what country you're listening from. So until we meet again, much love to you all. Take care of yourself and each other.